so that it is not a surprise to people, hopefully. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ian Merlier. I'm the president of the board of BUDA. I'm the one who sends you all those emails. Thank you for taking the time to read them and for taking the time to show up here. We are very excitedly watching the trends in vaccination. Massachusetts just passed 50% of Massachusetts residents have gotten their first shot, and close to 35% have both shots. We're now at general availability of COVID vaccines for everybody in the state over the age of 16 at least. So very exciting milestones. And based on current trends, we are feeling pretty confident that we will be able to play this summer. With that said, things are going to look a little bit different. In fact, very different in some ways. The board formed a return to play committee a little over a month ago. That committee has taken the time to sort of look at the logistical issues involved with various leagues, to think through some of the equity issues, and has come up with a plan for what it is that for the sort of mix of leagues, tournaments, et cetera, that we intend to run this summer. That committee is going to walk through what they've come up with. Their work has primarily been focused on recreational leagues, so the sort of adult recreational leagues that we run. After their presentation, I will take a couple of minutes and add a little more color and context around competitive tournaments, the USAU and local, and we'll have an opportunity later on for after that for questions and comments as well. So with that said, I believe Adam, I think you are sharing the slide. Oh, sorry, Raphael. Go for it, Raph.
Hi everybody. I'm Raphael, and my normal work with BUDA these last few years has been with the youth program. Someone contacted me the other day. This is just a lighthearted moment before we get into the serious business of return to play. Someone contacted me the other day and they said that a local author just wrote a children's book about Frisbee. And so I'm holding the cover up for you. I don't know the author. I mean, I met her for 2 minutes, but I looked at the book. It's pretty cool. It's a kid's book, and it actually has like a pretty serious, like look at the history of Frisbee. I just thought it was so neat, and it goes on sale, I think, starting this weekend. She lives, I think she's in Arlington, and I know the Arlington bookstores are carrying it. If anyone has kids and you just think it'd be a neat thing to do, then there you go. That's my little lighthearted plug. Now I'll be quiet.
Thanks, Raphael. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a fun addition to your local bookstore. Adam, you should be good to go. Yeah, for everyone else, if the sort of community as a whole, let's try to hold questions until after we sort of walk through things. So thanks very much.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. If you don't already know me, I think many of you probably already do from various leagues and activities and such, but I'm also on the board of directors and was part of the Return to Play subcommittee out of the board. And I'm going to start things off tonight. So this past year, over a year now, has had a very profound impact on all of us and in a variety of ways. And I guess one of the silver linings of it is that without having any ultimate to play, we've had plenty of time to have lots of meetings to discuss in extensive detail about what we really envision our best return to play is. It's pretty clear that we're not going to be able to just pick up right where we left off and pretend like nothing's happened this past year. It's just not reasonable. So We started by setting our goals for returning to play. What was the most important aspects? Our number one goal is, of course, to keep it COVID safe, both for our community and also the communities that we play in. We also want to be welcoming to new players, and that's players who are new to the sport and also new to the area. There's been some shifting around. People have come and gone from the area. So we know that there's new players in the area and hopefully people who know about our sport and want to come try it out. We also want to avoid injuries. I know many of us have not been quite as active, or at least not doing the sort of sprinting and cutting and jumping kind of activities that we usually do during Ultimate. And so we wanted to sort of ease back into things a little bit, get ourselves more used to playing again. And then we also wanted to try to create equitable opportunities to play and really think about what that looks like and what that means. So the leagues we are proposing to run for this summer, specifically summer 2021, are a learning league. That'll be for new and developing players, and it'll be more focused on skills and drills. A casual hat league, which will be more of an easygoing, fun, sort of all levels welcome, just out there happy to chase the disc around and have fun playing Ultimate hat league. And we're going to plan to expand baggage, which means you can sign up with groups of up to 4 people, which is a little bit different from past hat leagues, which usually had a baggage cap of 2 people. And then a business hat league, which is going to be a more of a high level play, faster paced level of play. And per the suggestion by one of our community players, that we're going to try out a draft team structure for that league. Which is different and new for us. And we sort of put some feelers out and heard back from several other people who have played in draft leagues in other cities and said it was a lot of fun. So that will be part of our business hat league. We'll also be having an open hat league. I should clarify that the learning, casual, and business leagues we expect to be mixed leagues, co-ed leagues. Open hat league, anyone can sign up for. There's no gender on-field restrictions. We're also hoping to have a Masters hat league, which I believe is women 30 and over and men 33 and over. I'm not 100% positive about that, but I think I'm getting a thumbs up from Ian. So I think that's right. Women 30 and over and men 33 and over. So that's an age restricted league. Also a fun, casual, all levels welcome league. And then a BUDA West hat league, which is held out in the Worcester area. And also all levels welcome, mixed co-ed league. And then possibly some other kinds of hat leagues, potentially a Grandmasters Beach League, possibly Golty if there's interest in that, maybe a women's league. So all of these leagues are basically dependent on having sort of a trifecta of things happen. The first one is that we need volunteer commissioners to run these leagues. We already have volunteer commissioners for BUDA West and Masters, which is great. It's a great place to start, and possibly GM as well. But for all of the other leagues, we're still looking for those volunteer commissioners to run the leagues. Oh, I see a comment from Seth, who's one of the commissioners for Masters. He says the age cap for women is 29, depending on numbers. So thank you for correcting me there. That's helpful. And the other things that we need, of course, are field permits. We can't play without fields, so we'll need that to happen. And then also enough player interest to run the leagues. So if we have a Golty league and only 10 people sign up, that's not really much of a Golty league, so we wouldn't be able to run that. So assuming we can get all 3 of those things to happen, we plan to run all of these this summer. So I will also point out sort of the elephant in the room of what is not on our list of leagues we are planning to run this summer, and that is Summer Club League. So why are we planning on running these specific kinds of hat leagues and not Summer Club League this summer? Well, Summer Club League has some unique challenges and obstacles that hat leagues just don't have. Between having to arrange your own fields, put together your own rosters, register your own players, it's just a lot to manage, and teams have been sort of in very different places right now than they were pre-COVID. So we're trying to ease into the season a little bit easier. And I will say that decision about Club League is specific only to this summer 2021. There's been no decisions made yet about anything this fall or future summers. This is just for this specific summer season. We also want to be as inclusive for players new to BUDA as possible. We're hoping to have most of our fields, if not all of them, be in the immediate Boston area or T accessible, or in the immediate surrounding areas. Also having a sliding pay scale option where possible. So we'll have sort of fees that we're recommending that will cover our costs. But if your financial situation doesn't allow you to pay the full fee, you'll be able to have that built-in room to sort of determine what is in your financial availability to play. So that way costs won't be prohibitive. I saw a comment about, does Boston include the Cambridge Somerville area? Yes, I would say as long as it's generally T accessible. For example, we're thinking Danahy would be perfectly accessible to those in the general Boston area. So yes, not necessarily just in Boston proper. This is also a really good opportunity to try some new things. A draft league, for example, we've never, at least not to my knowledge that I've been part of the leagues, ever had a draft league as part of a hat league here. And it sounds like quite a few other people have done that in other cities. So this is kind of a fun chance to try that. We also, haven't done some of the other types of leagues. We haven't really separated hat leagues into different levels of play. Again, maybe that has happened in the past, but certainly hasn't happened recently. So this is kind of a chance to try out new things and see how they go. It'll be easier for captains to enforce COVID protocols. So we'll be talking a little bit about that more in a minute, but the COVID protocols, the state mandated ones and the various local ones in different towns, we're going to have to adhere to very strictly. And it can be tricky if teams, in summer club, teams are playing all over, they're playing in different towns every week. And it's a little bit more difficult to track and manage and oversee. And so in the hat league settings, individual players will have to agree to the COVID protocols in advance. They'll be playing in the same place every week, so it'll be a little bit easier to enforce and manage. And also, we're allowing people to sort of determine individually what level of play they want to join. If somebody's been, maybe a higher level player in the past, but has been basically a couch potatoes this entire pandemic, maybe they want to start in the casual hat league. Or maybe they were just starting to play before the pandemic and they haven't played since, and they want to do learning league to do more skills and drills before they start just full on play. It kind of gives people the chance to individually customize what level of play they're looking to play, regardless of what their club league had been at in the past. Okay, and Adam?
Yep. Hey all, I hope you've all been well, and I can't wait to see you guys out in the field again soon. I'm going to start off talking about the COVID protocols that we're putting in place. And I'm going to start this by saying we don't know exactly what things are going to look like by the time that we're planning on starting. So we are keeping this vague for a reason. We will send out all the protocols when we know exactly what they're going to have to be. But things can change in the next month and a half. We just don't know. So we're going to kind of stay pretty high level with this. So the big things, one, we're going to follow all the guidelines of the state. We are at worst going to do exactly what they tell us. And there might be potential times when we go above and beyond that if we think it's the right thing to do. But again, that's possible to change. We're not going to change gameplay though. I know there's been a lot of talk over the last year and a half about whether we should have marks 6 feet away, whether stalling should be from the sidelines, things of that sort. We talked to some medical experts and they told us that at this point, with how well vaccinated Boston and Massachusetts are and where we expect to be at that point, along with the current rate of COVID infection, which right now is about 2% over the past week, that the actual chance of infection, the rate of infection is just very, very low. However, we are making masks mandatory. And this is going to stay in effect for Summer League, no matter what the guidelines are for state and local. We will take a look at it again once we get to fall. But for now, for summer, even if the mask mandate is pulled, we are going to keep masks mandated. And I will say parts of Boston, especially Somerville and Cambridge, have been more strict than pretty much anywhere else in the country up to this point. So I don't know that we expect that mask mandate to come down this summer. But even if we do, those are going to stay. We will have captains in charge of enforcing COVID protocols. We will give you supplies, masks, and sanitizer. There will be a training for all captains at the beginning of the league. They'll be responsible for contact tracing. We're going to make it as easy as possible to do that. But in terms of making sure everyone's wearing their masks and socially distancing when necessary, there will be each of the captains will be in charge of that. And as I said, there will be a lot more detail available once we know exactly what our protocols will be. So moving on to the timeline of when things are going to happen. Right now, we are having our community meeting. By late April, we're hoping that we can have the commissioners that we need for all of the leagues. And then we're going to start getting registration prepared. Early May, we'll then open registration. Late May, we'll get everything ready. And then we're hoping by early June that we're actually going to be able to start, which would give us a full summer season, which is really, really exciting. So kind of the last piece from us is what we need from you. We need volunteers to commission and to captain the leagues. These leagues only work with volunteers at this point. So if you'd like to commission or captain, please let us know. There's a form that you can fill out in the slideshow, which we'll be sending out. We'll also just be sending out the form itself. So if you're interested, let us know. This is all based on permits. And one thing that we know potentially might happen for Club League is we don't want the Summer Club League teams to lose their permits. I know there's some club teams that have permits for Danahy, really good permits for a lot of fields that are based off of first come, first serve, and people have had them for years and years and years. If you are one of those club teams, please reach out to us. We are happy to help. We'll purchase the permit from you. We can use those permits to run all kinds of leagues, and then we can give them back to you next year. That's kind of what we would like to do to make sure that you keep your permits and that we can use them this year. We also this year want to think about maybe some league themes. We were talking about doing some new things, thinking about spicing it up as much as we can, make it as fun as possible. We'd like to do shirts as well. So if you have any ideas, please let us know about those too. And if you, we've been working a lot over this past year. So much has happened over the past year. And our DEI team has been working really hard on a lot of initiatives, and they want to really ramp that up. And if you want to learn more and volunteer to help them with some of the initiatives they are working on, or you have new ideas, please reach out to them. And that's about it from us. I know Ian said he had some things he wanted to talk about before Q&A time. So I'll pass on to him.
Yeah, but before we jump into Q&A, just a couple of things I wanted to add on, sort of expanding the purview of the conversation a little bit outside of our adult recreational leagues. So we have reserve Devons for Boston Invite on the weekend of July 17th and 18th. So for those of you who play USAU, that is on the schedule. It will be a sanctioned tournament, etc. That weekend currently does not have any other USAU tournaments happening. So if you are inclined to play USAU this year, that option is out there. Registration will be opening in the next day or two. Don't currently know exactly what the division breakdown is going to look like. Frankly, I'm sort of waiting for a little more insight into how many teams are actually going to be operating this year. We also, as you heard, we made the decision not to run Summer Club League this year. We had already reserved Devons on the weekend of, I believe it's August 14th and 15th for the Summer Club League tournament, which now will not be happening. That presents an interesting opportunity for us to do a locally oriented tournament with potentially a significant audience. The notable missing piece there is someone to organize a tournament on August 14th and 15th. So if there happens to be anyone in the audience of close to 80 people right now who feels inclined to organize a tournament in August, please reach out to us. hello@buda.org is a great email address. Reach out to us at any time. This is a great opportunity to sort of learn how to organize a tournament and get yourself into the rotation of people who can do that. And we have a lot of folks who can walk you through the mechanics of potentially running a tournament. USAU is planning to run a club season. It's starting later than usual. I believe the first tournaments that are on the club calendar right now are in the middle of June. But we do have both sectionals and regionals booked at Devons as well. So again, for those of you who are in the USAU circuit, those are, I think, September 11th and 12th and September 26th and 27th or something like that. I would need to double check that exactly, but it's right around those times. A couple of things I wanted to just emphasize from what Adam and Rachel said. So field permits. One of our major concerns with not running Summer Club League this year is that there are a lot of towns and cities around the Boston area that have essentially grandfather policies with their field permits. If you have a permit 1 year, you have preference for getting that permit again the next year. If you decide not to renew your permit for a year, you drop off the list, and whoever is next on the list for that permit now becomes the holder of that permit, and they have preference the following year. For us, that's a real concern for field spaces like Danahy, where in a normal summer club season, we play somewhere between 14 and 18 games a week at Danahy out of 80 to 90 total games that happen in Summer Club League. It's close to a quarter of all of our games that are played at that location. And there are waiting lists for all of those permits. If you are the captain of a team that has a permit at Danahy or at other sort of high demand sites, please reach out. hello@buda.org or president@buda.org. Please reach out to us. At the moment, parks and rec departments are in general not being terribly responsive. They don't know what restrictions are going to be in place. They've been charged with developing a lot of outdoor programming that didn't exist before. And so they're very heads down, just trying to keep sort of their town's kids occupied with programming. It's a little bit easier for us at an organizational level to get their attention than it is for individuals. So please reach out to us. Let us know if you have one of those permits. Let us know when it is, where it is. And I can work with you to sort of make sure that we're reaching out to that town or that whatever that group is and making sure that we're on their radar, that we're not giving the permit up forever, that we don't want to lose this permit. We don't want to lose access to those fields. And whatever we need to do for this year to make sure that we keep that permit, we'll make sure that we're taking care of that. The final thing is just to reiterate the call for volunteers. All of this, as you all know, unfortunately we had to lay Jonah off. We don't currently have any paid staff. So we are trying to get, a 60 team USAU tournament and goodness knows how many hat leagues sort of off the ground. We're trying to kind of reboot the organization without the benefit of paid staff. And for the moment, that puts us in a position where we really have to lean on and rely on members of our community to step up and be willing to put in work and be willing to put in effort to sort of help us with that. Again, hello@buda.org. Reach out to us if there are leagues you're interested in running, if there are projects you're interested in taking on, please throw your hat in the ring. We have a bunch of experienced hands around the organization who can really help to sort of onboard you and make sure that it's not a painful experience. We've been doing this for a lot of years, but we kind of, in some ways over the last couple of years, because we've had Jonah and Joa before him on staff, we've been able to sort of rely on them in a way that right now we can't. So with that said, I think Q&A time. If you can either drop questions or comments into the chat. There is a raise your hand feature in Zoom, or if you want to just unmute yourself and ask a question, please feel free to go ahead and do that.
Hey, Ian, I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. Missed you all. I am curious what kind of assumptions you're making about the level of interest there's going to be in these leagues. I feel like it could be anything from nobody wants to play because everybody's scared to everyone in the universe who's ever played Ultimate, before last year is going to want to play. So I'm curious what kind of assumptions you're making about that right now. And, wait lists are a source of stress for people who need Ultimate to stay sane even in normal times. So I'm just wondering what the thought process is right now on that.
It's a good question, and the Return to Play committee can jump in as well and add a little more color on how they were thinking about that. I think from my perspective, the short answer is we simply don't know, right? We are attempting to plan in the absence of definite information, and the definite information that we don't know includes things like how much field space will we, right now, most cities and towns are not issuing field permits to adult sports, period.
So you don't even know how many fields we have yet.
Yeah. Yep. So will that change, right? The city of Boston right now, for example, has said we can apply for field permits if we wish. They will grant those field permits if and when state restrictions allow them to do so. And we may have no more than 12 hours notice.
Oh, God.
Right. I mean, that's marginally useful at best for us in terms of planning, right? So we don't know what the desire is going to be. We also don't we don't know the supply or the demand side. We're taking guesses at both ends. So I wish I could give you a better answer than that. I really can't. I think Adam, Rachel, or Judith, if you want to jump in and.
Yeah, sure. I'm Judith. I'm also a new board member on the Return to Play committee as well. So we absolutely right. We don't know. And we wanted to try and make opportunities in case what you said, Nathan, about everyone wanting to play. We know that there's been a lot of people who have not been able to go outside and have any social contact. And there may be people who are very interested in Ultimate as a COVID safe option to get moving and meet people in that way, which is why we wanted to do a learning league. And then also we wanted to, but in terms of making sure about the wait list, we also realized there might be a need for an open league because we generally have more men than women apply. So that's what we're trying to cover all the bases, but it definitely depends on what demand ends up being and what the who will be able to commission and the fields and everything like that.
So none of that. It sounds like, you know, this is what you'd like to do if it all works out, but you don't know really any
Yeah,
of
we
the
don't know.
details that you need to say this is definitely happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess that's
I can
a
live with
good
that.
sort of general caveat to all of this, right? It's very much everything that we are presenting here is what makes sense right now, given things like here's what the trends in vaccinations look like. Here's what we expect is going to happen, or to the best of our ability to predict. Here's what the state is going to do as far as gathering requirements, et cetera. But I mean, all of this has a level of uncertainty to it.
Okay, thank you. Very much appreciate all your hard work.
There is a question in the comments about if interest exceeds the available league opportunities, will we consider restricting players to a single league/team? The answer is yes. We are planning on giving as many people the opportunity to play as possible, meaning rather than allowing one person to play in 2 leagues and one person to not play in any leagues, both players are going to get 1 league. So we'll probably try to do in some type of way a preference of like, if you have multiple days or multiple leagues you want to play in, you'll give us your preference and we'll try to put you into that league.
Eric, to your question, so the mask mandate question, so as of right now, the state does have a mask mandate in place. A big part of our assumption is that that is probably going to continue to be the case through the summer. It is also a requirement for USAU competition, and USAU has already said that that will be a requirement through the entirety of the 2021 season. I understand your general point, but for the time being, this is the path that makes the most sense to us from an organizational perspective and from a risk management perspective. RJ, to your question about tournament for the hat and draft leagues, I think that's a good question. I don't think we know the answer to that. That August date is floating out there very temptingly. And it seems like that might make sense as a time and a place to do a tournament. That said, there's logistics involved in doing that. There's also so one of the challenges that we have here is if we can start in, call it the second week of June, then a tournament in mid-August makes a lot of sense. If we can't start until July 4th, for example, then a tournament in mid-August is potentially sort of mid-season. And we just don't know where that sits at that point, right? Maybe it's still worth it. I don't know. So we don't know is the short answer.
On top of that, we don't know how many people are going to be allowed in one place in time based on government regulations. So that also plays into it, along with the fact that we don't know if the permits are going to specify that we're only allowed a certain amount of people. So that'll all be contingent on those things.
Bobby, to your question about BUDA or USAU. So BUDA, we don't, USAU club teams are sort of not under our purview. So we don't have any specific guidance. USAU's guidance at this point is that essentially, well, let me put it this way. There are club teams in a significant portion of the country that are holding tryouts already. In fact, I think most of the country club teams have started holding tryouts. It's dependent on state level guidelines about how many people are allowed to participate in events and what the requirements for those events are. So I don't, off the top of my head, remember what the current Massachusetts guidance is for a moderate risk sport, which is what Ultimate is classified as far as the number of participants that you may have on the field. But there is at least a possibility that at this point club teams could be holding tryouts. I'm happy to, if you want to email me after this, I'm happy to sort of point you to the documentation you need to look at for that. Peter, to your point about the fall, our expectation right now is that we will have both fall hat and fall club as usual. The summer club, the reason, I mean, fundamentally, when you get down to it, even if we tried to do a summer club season, it would be 6 weeks long, right? It would be a very, very short season. We would end up with somewhere between 40 and 60 captains, most likely, trying to contact individual cities and towns and get the attention of parks and rec departments that currently don't have much in the way of attention to get permits. We would have to figure out how to do things like create COVID protocols for every field that every team uses and get those filed appropriately. From a logistical point of view, it's a significant undertaking. Fall club is a little bit simpler in that BUDA has always taken responsibility for finding the fields for fall club. Fields are easier to find in the fall, relatively speaking, which is nice. So we have a little bit more control over that circumstance. It also, frankly, just gives us more time, right? It gets us closer to vaccination. It gets us, there are likely going to be restrictions that are in place in June and July that will not be in place in October. And assuming that that's the case, we should be in a position where we can sort of run a successful club league in a way that we don't think we can this summer.
Hey, I have a quick question. It looks like we have a bit of a lull here. So I just want to confirm it. It doesn't sound like vaccination one way or the other is going to come into play with regards to people's ability to play in a league or on a team or whatever this summer and fall. Could you guys confirm that? Thank you.
As of right now, that's the expectation. I mean, to phrase it a different way, are we going to require people to be vaccinated to play? And right now, it's not, we haven't said that we are going to do that. We'll see. There may come a time where that is a reasonable choice. Right now, I think with other considerations like mask wearing and asking people to please do things like socially distance on sidelines, restricting the number of people on sidelines and so on, those other measures, what we've seen so far, the sort of epidemiological data says that outdoor transmission, when you're wearing a mask and when you are maintaining distance when possible, is rare to non-existent. So we feel pretty good about doing that even with, even without requiring vaccination. With that said, I think, I don't want to say this is the official position of BUDA, but it is certainly the official position of the president of BUDA's board of directors that you should please get vaccinated as soon as possible. And I will, on my own behalf only, I will say that strongly. So, yeah, I hope that helps. There's a question from David Ferguson about, are we anticipating individual summer club teams in the future still having most of the responsibility for getting field permits for their games instead of the league having to step in? So we've gone back and forth on this a lot. So Summer Club League in 2019 was, I believe, 76 teams. And those teams played on average about 1.5 games per week. So that means that we needed roughly 65 field slots. The city of Somerville has a total of 6 fields. Right. I mean, 65 field slots is an awful lot of field slots to fill. One of the advantages of having individual captains do that is that it disperses that responsibility, and sort of allows you to, teams that are located in the suburbs, it's much easier to get fields in the suburbs. They're not accessible necessarily, but they can sort of do that. The teams that are in the city can fight for the wonderful pitted, totally destroyed grass fields at Draw 7 and stuff like that. In the future, I don't think we're going to be in a position to change that to the league procures the fields next year, for example. Over the last couple of years, we have been trying to be more active about the league itself procuring the fields. One thing that I would like for us to move towards is more centralization of that. So even if you're still identifying that there is a field that is available, if you can turn around and come to, whoever our new Jonah is, when we're in a position to rehire someone into that job and say, hey, I found this field, it's in Medford, it's available at this time, can BUDA reserve it? And then that permit is under BUDA's name and with a BUDA COI and everything else. I think in the long run, that's going to be a system that's much easier to manage and also is more sustainable when we end up in a circumstance like this year where we are worried about those grandfather clauses on existing fields, right? If we know where all those fields are, if it's already our name organizationally on the permit, then it's much easier for us to just turn around and sort of talk to the city on behalf of teams collectively. I hope that answers the question. I'm being a little bit hand wavy because it's a year away, and thinking 3 days ahead is already difficult enough. But
yeah, no, that's good, because that's definitely a balance of it, because I know you guys are already insanely overburdened as it is, but it's also the balance too of maybe, especially after this year, towns and cities, they may have even less of an appetite to coordinate with individual teams and may only kind of go with the clout of an overall organization. So
yeah, so I've been doing most of the direct coordination with Parks and Rec departments. The average response time to an email is about 10 days right now, because they really are just utterly overwhelmed by trying to figure out things like what kind of youth programming can we put out there? What sorts of I think for parents especially, they are so burdened by trying to figure out ways to get their kids out of the house and social experiences that they can provide for their kids, that they're finding it very, very difficult to Parks and Rec departments. A lot of that burden's been put on them, and they're finding it very difficult to spend energy on anything else.
So there was some questions about extra timeouts, and I think I can talk for like a quick minute about injury things that we were thinking about. We are thinking about at 2 timeouts per half plus a floater, but we're also open if people want more than that. I think we'll give that and then tell captains, like, talk to each other, and if your teams need more, just take timeouts. We also, want to talk to captains about thinking about whether they can try to do some warm-ups for their teams, get everyone stretched out, and just kind of recommend that people get stretched before they play. And there's a couple other things that we're thinking about that we'll talk about it at some point, probably during captains meetings. But those are kind of the big things that we really want to make sure that, especially those first 2-3 weeks when everyone's coming back, that no one's pushing way too hard. Everyone's making sure that they're getting stretched however they need to and getting ready, not pushing themselves too hard. We don't want to come back and see a bunch of muscle injuries.
One thing to consider as well, having commissioned a number of the hat leagues in the past, is this kind of goes to one of Ian's early points, right? Who knows what the league is going to look like? We could have teams that have only 11 people showing up every day because there just hasn't been a lot of registration. We could have teams where 21 people show up to each game for each team because everyone who plays Frisbee needs to play, right? And you're going to have very different timeout desires in both of those situations. So I speaking as a past commissioner and someone who might again commission these seasons, depending on how everything goes, it's if I were the commissioner, I would emphasize to the captains to err on the side of more timeouts, but definitely pay attention to how many people are there and the degree to which they want to be playing along.
We definitely think it's going to be good to be flexible and to let captains really talk to their players and pay attention to kind of what's going on and make decisions in the best interest of people's health. And Christy, we have thought about team sizes, and we're hoping that that we can make them a little bit bigger. It would be great to get like 15 people on a team showing up every game, so that people aren't playing every point. That's obviously an ideal scenario. So that's kind of the hope.
Other questions? Excellent. Well, we'll hang out for a couple more minutes just to give anyone else who has questions, or if anything pops into your head, give you a chance to ask. But thank you very much, all of you, for taking the time to join and hearing us out. Really appreciate it. If you are interested in volunteering some of your time to run a league or help organize a tournament, hello@buda.org is the place to do that. And thank you. Really appreciate it. And I'm super excited to see you guys all on the field again soon. So thanks so much.
I see a comment about dinosaurs as a league thing, which I think is a very cute idea.
I do want to make note, from the, I want to say it was Spring Hat 2020 League, we actually do have a design that we could not use that would fit very well.
Oh,
So
Dinosaurs?
no,
I
I
think that would
don't
be-
necessarily know if we want to have different designs for different leagues or the same design for all the leagues or whatever, but I will say that we have currently one design in the bank already.
I
What
think
is
that's,
it?
yeah,
What's
what is it?
Come on, you've been in leagues I've commissioned before. I'm not telling you guys that. You know that.
But are you
It's appropriate. It is
technically the commissioner
appropriate
yet?
though.
We might
Not-
need to
If
market
you're
it.
not officially the commissioner, does that count?
That means I don't think I'm allowed to say anything if I'm not officially the commissioner, right, Christy?
Now, I'd say it's the other way around. Rules
Hey, I
are
have
meant
a
to be broken.
question. How much work could I expect to need to do if I were to volunteer to commission? I would love to put some volunteer hours back into this organization. I got 2 kids and I'm starting a new job in a couple weeks. So like, I need to, I'd like to volunteer. I'd love to know, what I could expect in terms of like the amount of work that needs to be done.
Nate, I'd be happy to talk to you about the time I've spent on the leagues offline if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
same
will
here.
say too, I think we're hoping to have more than one commissioner for each league if possible. So you can
Yeah.
work in pairs or small groups, so you can kind of split the workload. And, Evan, I'm sure can give you similar details, but usually the majority of the work is up front. Getting teams together, captains meeting, that kind of stuff. And then once things get running, you sort of, you have to jump in and resolve issues as they come up, but, teams sort of start to go along and it's okay.
Largely, that's correct. Hey, Bethany, there's also some additional time you have to put in right before the tournament just to get that going too. But yeah, Rachel largely has the right of it.
All right. Not going to be able to commission until I'm old. Like actually old, not just still in my 30s old.
Hey,
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
all right. It seems like we maybe like we have run out of questions at this point. So yeah, thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Much appreciated all the work you're doing behind the scenes.